Hey there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we are going to make a layered scene. It's all one layer, but we're going to layer our stamping and use some ink blending brushes and have a great time. Now, you can alter your card to fit the season that you want to do. I'm going to be doing a Christmas card because I always need more of those, and I'm actually going to work on a folded piece of Bristol board. Now, Bristol board is kind of like a smooth watercolor paper, not quite as robust, but plenty robust for the watery techniques that we are going to do with our stamps here. I'm using some peg stamps from our sponsor, Rubber Stamp Tapestry. You can find them online at pegstamps.com. I got some new stamp sets from them. I got Hello Mistletoe, which has some wonderful decorations. Christmas Traditions, which has a bell and a present and poinsettias and some little starburst and some holly, it looks like, or mistletoe. There's also a couple other new ones if you're in the mood for some more tiny Christmas stamps. They've got Shady Pine and Christmas Time. And next week, fingers crossed, my new stamp sets through Rubber Stamp Tapestry will be released, so I'm really excited to share those with you. But for now, we're going to use some of the ones that we've been using all along. I'm also going to be using the, let me show you right here, the Woods in Winter stamp set, because it's got this nice sparse tree that you can stamp all those other doodads on, which I think is kind of fun. First thing we're going to do is tape down our paper. Now, you can either stick your masking tape down to your shirt before you stick it onto your paper, or what you can do is use a hairdryer or an embossing gun on the tape before you peel it up, and that will just take down the stickiness. This will give us a nice white border without us having to add another layer, so it's economical and time-saving. Just keep in mind what side your card's opening on so you don't end up stamping the whole thing upside down, because that would be a real bummer. You'd have to cut off your stamping and glue it to another card base, and that kind of would take away the whole savings of time and materials. What you want is a nice even border of all your tape all the way around, because that's going to be kind of the frame of our image. And what I did was I used about 1.5 inch die, you could use a paper punch, to punch a circle from a piece of Post-it note, and I just made sure there was a little sticky left. And I'm going to use Antique Linen Distress Oxide to kind of color my sky here. The reason I'm using this color is it's going to give us the impression of daytime. If we used blues, it would definitely feel cooler. However, it would give us the impression of nighttime, and that's not what I want here on this project. I want it to feel kind of like a snowy morning or afternoon. So we've got to have a little bit of that ambiance here. Now we're going to take this great big tree image and we're going to ink it up with some Versafine Clair or any permanent ink. The reason I want to do this in permanent is in case I happen to hit it with any of my water medium, it's not going to bleed out. I want this to be nice and crisp and be my focal point. And I'm going to stamp this fairly close to the bottom. And I have my paper taped down to a foam core board, so it does give me a really nice cushion when I'm stamping, so I get a really nice impression there. And I'm just going to heat that really quick with my heat tool to lock the ink and make sure it's nice and dry. Now I'm going to remove this mask, and I've got another mask which I basically just stuck 2 Post-it notes together and just taped them and then cut a curve, and that's going to give me a kind of rolling hills in the background, and this is going to help us get some depth. I'm going to start off with this tree stamp here. This is also from the Woods in Winter set, and I also have the smaller one that's from the trees set. It's the same exact grouping, just in different sizes, and I'm going to ink up with some dark colors. I'm going to do some nice dark blue. I'm going to do some green, nice dark green, and I'm going to do a little bit of purple, and that's just going to give me some nice shadowy colors. Then I'm going to spritz this with water, and this is going to give me a watercolory look and kind of make things look further away. I want to stamp in front of the sun a little bit because that will give me a it'll give me just a little bit of depth. And then I'm actually going to move this down and kind of tip it a little bit. I'm going to ink it up the same way. Doesn't really, just be careful, try not to ink over the exact same area. These colors are pretty dark, so they shouldn't contaminate too badly, but you just want to kind of keep that in mind. Give it a little spritz. I'm going to go in front of these guys, and I am going to go over here And let's do a little bit of the green. And just a little bit of the blue. Ooh, that's pretty juicy. Let's see. There we go. And let's look under there and see what we have, and then we can move it again and we can get another little grouping of trees. Actually, that's pretty far down. I think I want to go up here and do some nice dark ones, maybe not even spritz them. Let's do the purple here. Now you generally don't put your smaller ones in front, but it's not really going to look like you have the same trees. It's going to look like you've just got layers and layers of hills and forest, and that's what we're going for. Don't worry about any little smudges of green, because you're not really going to see that. And then I can do a little bit of green here and mist it, and then kind of stamp to fill in a little bit. And then I'm going to take a brush and kind of wisp up a little bit of those colors. And plus this will take any wetness off of the off of my mask, so that when I do the snow further down, it's not going to mess anything up. So then I'm going to move this down a little bit, grab a little bit of that violet, and just kind of wisp in a little bit of hills, snowy hills. I like to have the shadow come right behind the tree trunk, so that's why I'm going over the tree trunk with my mask a little bit. And it's just really soft, so you can stamp over it and it's not going to be a big deal. That's what you want. You want it to look really, really natural. I'm just going to pull in a little bit of that color right off the edge of my card. I think that's so pretty. I love that purple. I think it gives you a nice atmospheric look. Now if you see, like, along the tree line, if you feel like it needs to be sharpened up a little bit, you can put your mask back down, grab your purple, and just kind of dab it in. And I am wisping it behind the tree a little bit, just so that we can see that there's a nice clear forest back there. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now we're going to do some stamping on our tree, and I am going to get the, I have a couple tiny little birds here, and I want to do them kind of each looking in a different direction towards the center of the tree. I'm going to use the red ladybug ink. You just want a nice bright kind of Christmas red. So the thing I want to tell you about this though is when you use the ladybug ink, you're going to have to really be careful of what else you use in red, because it's such a dominant color. So I'm going to do this one. I think I'll do this one right here, kind of looking inwards, and then I'll do the other one up here, well, maybe way up here, looking that way. And so there we've got a couple focal points already. The other thing I want to use red for is these, the Christmas present here. Now the registration mark on the Christmas present, I want to mention to you because I thought it would be at the bottom of the present the first time I used it, and I ended up stamping it crooked. It's on the corner. So that's so you can line up a bunch in a border, like if you were making a border. So just keep that in mind. That's on the corner of your gift. Okay, so I'm going to stamp that. I might only put one here. I like that kind of trio, how you have 3 things, 1, 2, 3, and it's not too busy. I got really busy in the card before, and I regretted it because I thought it looked pretty, more pretty when it was simple. And now I'm going to use some gold. This color is Peanut Brittle. It's not an actual metallic ink, but if you had a nice metallic ink, that would be a really nice, nice thing to use. And I'm going to stamp these little Christmas bulbs dangling off the branches. I'm doing the gold because that way it's not going to be really bold. I can color them in, and I'm not going to have like a black outline because I'm not using black anywhere in this. And it's not to say that you can't, but I just wanted to keep it kind of simple. And you know, must be pretty close to a house, because otherwise how are they going to plug in those lights? I didn't think that through very well. we got Ah, solar-powered Christmas lights. That's what's happening here. Guarantee. And now I'm going to grab some of these ornaments, these new ornaments, and let's see, what colors do I want to use here? I like the purple. Let's see. You know what? I think blue would stand out really well. I think I might need a brighter blue, though. Let me stamp that on my scrap paper and see. I feel like I want a little bit brighter of a blue, though. That looks a little dull. I'm gonna find a brighter blue. Although I like to reuse the colors as much as possible when I'm stamping, sometimes a color is just going to not show up very well, and I think if I used Paris Dusk again, it would just kind of just disappear with all the darks that I have back there. So I'm gonna go with this Danube blue. It's just a little bit more saturated, and so I think it's gonna give me a better result. Now, what I want you to do is think about opaque media. So if you have like gel pens, other things like that in your stash that are vibrant, those would be great things to use when you are when you're doing your project here, because you can layer them over. You can color different different images, and they'll stand out a little bit more. I'm trying not to put two of the same things right next to each other, but sometimes it ends up that way. And that's another thing, if you end up stamping something next to itself and you're repeating an image too much, that's a great way to be able to kind of make them stand out a little bit. You can grab a different colored gel pen or metallic pen and work it that way. Now I want to put a little bit of kind of like shrubs down here at the bottom, and I'm going to use this stamp right here. This is from Cherry Blossom. It's actually just a branch that you would build a wreath with, but it works really well for this. I'm using Espresso Truffle, which is a kind of a dull brown. And I like to stamp it at different levels so that, and turn it a little bit so it doesn't look like it's all the same stamp. Like I would just get the tips there, just to give it a little bit of framing and variety, because what this will do is frame your picture a little bit, which I think it's nice. It's kind of like you're looking in. Now another thing I think would be pretty is actually to take this golden ink and put a little bit of that up in the corners here. I think I'll stick my Post-it back down there so I don't get the ink where I don't want it, but I think that will kind of give it a nice frame and a nice glow. So keep those masks handy, because sometimes you want to go back in and put them down again. Now we're going to do our coloring, and for that I just have some brush pens, and I'm just going to go through and do some of the lights here, and I am just trying to kind of spread out the colors a little bit so that I don't have two of the same colors right next to each other. I chose kind of an orangey red so it wouldn't compete with that nice Christmas, bright Christmas red that I had for the birds. So that's why I did that, in case you're wondering. I might need to have another one right here with that red color. You want to kind of keep that rhythm around. I went way brighter, way lighter with the blue so that it wouldn't compete with it would stand out, wouldn't compete with the trees or the other ornaments. And sometimes I'll look and see where will this stand out the best, and that's where I'll put that color. My apologies for the furnace. I was pausing earlier to try to avoid the furnace sounds, but unfortunately it's very cold today. It's like 33 degrees out, so we've jumped straight into winter here in New England. And I am going to go in and put some of the branches on the tree. I just kind of like to go in with a lighter green first. This green here, this is called olive green. I'm just going to go around the ornaments and fill in some of those branches. You don't have to do this. I do like to kind of wisp out the branches as I get close to the edge. That's just going to make them stand out a little bit. So do that throughout the tree. And then go in with a darker green and just add in, you know, a few like just little streaks here and there, just little fluffy, wispy lines, just to show some of those, some of the texture of the fur, and just to give it a little bit more depth, because, you know, fir trees are darker than that olive green color, but if you went in and colored it all this dark, it would just kind of eat everything up. It wouldn't look as well. It would just kind of make everything way too dark there. So that's how you kind of get away with that. That way you can stamp as much or as little in as you want and then fill in your tree. Okay, the next thing I'm going to show you is kind of embellishing with some gel pens. Like if you want your birds to stand out more, if you go in with a like a red gel pen, you can really pump it up. You could use glittery gel pens, you could use the three-dimensional gel pens, anything like that is fair game. Another thing I like to use is a white paint pen, because you can go in and add highlights. You can define edges. If like you had an ornament and you could see the boughs of the tree behind it, you can go in and kind of dab into the white areas with this, so it, instead of it being buried in the branches, you start to see the you see it kind of stand out on top of the branches because you have an opaque medium here, whereas our inks are dye-based and they're transparent. So this just kind of helps you bring it out from the background a little bit. And take your time, like I say a lot in my videos. I am standing quite a ways back from my project while I'm recording, so I can't, you know, get my head in there and look as closely as I usually would like to when I'm coloring. And now I have a gold marker, which is also opaque, and I'm just going in and adding like the tops of my ornaments. I can add any other details I want to. I can add a bow on my present here. Anything you want to embellish is fair game with these markers. So, you know, you can do as little or as much as you want. You could actually use stickers if you wanted to embellish that a little bit more. Another thing that I thought might be kind of fun is to use some of these like deer back in the background. You have to use a really dark ink. So I think what I would do is actually, I think I'll use this dark because deer are, it's not like really dark enough to be too silhouetted, but I think if I use my that really dark brown ink with these, then it will be dark enough to just kind of give the indication of these little deer back there. Just kind of get them in silhouette. There's a moose too. I don't know if I'll put the moose in. I think I'll just do the deer kind of running across. This is from the Deer Forest peg stamp set. And then they're kind of going in the background. I think that's kind of pretty. So I'm going to remove the tape. I am going to blast it real quick with my heat tool just to make sure the tape hasn't stuck too fast to my background. And I always pull it off at an angle like that. It just keeps it from ripping for whatever reason. I do that with my watercolor paintings as well. And this is a 1-layer card. Now if you had like a little gold star sticker, that would be really cute to put on top of the tree. You can see it's very pretty. But I don't, but I do have these little silver brads, so what I'm going to do is actually just poke a little hole at the top of my Christmas tree with a tack and put my brad in there, and that will be really pretty. Just make sure if you have inky fingers that you don't smudge it all over your card. I'm going to try my best not to. No promises. But you have a nice, and it's a nice heavyweight card too, so you definitely could mail that. It's not going to require any extra postage, but it isn't going to feel flimsy either because it's a nice heavyweight card. I think you could do this on a cardstock that takes water all right. Definitely try it out and see. I'll show you the other one, my prototype here. I went a little bit lighter in the background and my tree stood out a little bit more. That way you can kind of decide, well, how do I want to do mine? Do I want to do heavier trees in the background? Do I want to have them lighter like this? Do I want them darker like that? And you can decide for yourself how you want to do your card, because that's what it's about. It's about you expressing yourself with your art supplies. I want to thank you so much for watching today. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and check out our sponsor, Rubber Stamp Tapestry. You can find all the supplies I used linked up in the video description. Visit pegstamps.com for more projects and ideas too. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.